Hey y'all, welcome to the Honest to Goodness podcast. I'm your host, Kerri, along with my co-host, Morgan. Let's get started. We're going to be talking about the When Calls the Heart pilot movie. Now, I would recommend before or after watching this movie to go listen to an episode of the Hardy's Hotline podcast, some sweet friends of ours. And they did an interview with Brian Bird where he talks about kind of the backstory to this movie and just the journey that God brought it on. And it is absolutely incredible. So I'll try to find that episode and link it in the show notes below. It's definitely worth a listen. But this movie came out in 2013 and stars Maggie Grace, Stephen Amell, Poppy Drayton, and Daniel Sharman. Lori Loughlin is actually might be the only cast member that came from the When Calls the Heart pilot movie into the When Calls the Heart series, which we'll get into a little bit more as we go along. But I took this movie with me when I went to Louisiana. I said it right that time. I always start to say Mississippi.
She always says it in Mississippi, but I'm a Louisiana girl. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we went to Mississippi. Okay. That might be why I keep.
Yeah, we did film a lot. We did our intro in Mississippi, so we spent a good bit of the time that you were here in Mississippi. So I get it.
that's probably why I get so confused. But yeah, so I took this movie with me when I went to visit Morgan. And we watched it together. Now, Morgan, had you actually seen this movie before I brought it, or?
No, I think my mom might have, but at the kind of a little bit of a backstory. I didn't really get into When Calls the Heart until season 2. Mm-hmm. I watched a few episodes of season 1 of the series, but I've never watched the pilot movie. Mm-hmm. Which my mom said that you don't necessarily have to watch the pilot movie in order to get into the series. So I didn't watch it. I kept saying I was going to watch it, and it just got, life gets busy. You say you're going to do something, and, it kind of gets hard to do it, to just find the time to sit down and do it. But you brought it, and we were like, you know what, let's watch it. We also watched the movie you worked on the past summer and everything, and I really enjoyed it. I did. It is definitely very much different from the series, but I can see some inspiration that they really pulled from it. There's some things that obviously didn't make it into the series that I feel like would have been really great to add into the series. And then there's some things I'm glad that they didn't add into the series. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. Especially for people who kind of like, who are like Kerri and I. Me and Kerri tend to really enjoy behind the scenes stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's a great it kind of feels like those little indie movies that are very small, and you could tell that it was a movie that didn't have a great, grand, big, huge pile of money put into it. It was very much it didn't have a whole lot of production money to kind of allow them to do big, grand things, which I kind of like. It was very down to earth, nothing extravagant, very royal, and I really like that part of it. So Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. If by chance we happen to have some listeners out there who are not familiar with When Calls the Heart, first of all, congratulations for finding us, because that is like the majority. This is how we got started, was talking When Calls the Heart. So congratulations for finding us if you are not familiar with When Calls the Heart. But growing up, I'm going to start with a backstory here. So growing up, Jeanette Oke was my favorite author. Love her so much. And well, I should say I love her stories so much, although I have grown to love her. But I think it was my 11th birthday, could be wrong, like 11, 12, somewhere around in there, that everyone got together and got me the DVDs and all the books for the Love Comes Softly series.
Oh, wow.
Now, just a funny story on myself here. It did not really work in my favor that my mom had got me a store-bought cake that year, and it was up on tiers, so it looked like a wedding cake, and she wanted to take it off, but I thought it was pretty, so I made her leave it. So my cake looked like a wedding cake. My grandmother took me for a drive so my mom could get the house all in order, and I spent the entire drive talking to her about the two sons of one of my dad's friends, because we had just been and spent time with them. And like I was riding around on jet skis with one of them and whatever. So I like spend the entire drive talking about these two boys, get back to the house. My cake looks like a wedding cake, and my entire gifts are the Love Comes Softly series. That does not look too good for an 11, 12-year-old girl. I promise you that was not intentional. It's just one of those weird things that happens to me because I am me. But anyway, so
yeah, to tell you guys how different we are, I'm pretty sure my 10th or 11th birthday was like High School Musical themed. So I think you could be younger than that. I really don't know how old I was when High School Musical was this big phenomenon, but that right there shows you just how different we grew up and the different tastes that we have.
Yes, definitely.
So I also love Softly books. I mean, I haven't gotten to read the books, but the series itself, I love.
Yeah. I think my favorite series of Jeanette Oke's is the Seasons of the Heart series. If there is another book that they pick up to do, or that GAC picks up to do movies out of, I hope and pray it is Seasons of the Heart, but it needs to be so close to the book because the books are awesome. They are like, they felt like they related to me. I felt like I could connect the most to them. But the reason I'm talking about all this, Jeanette Oke wrote the When Calls the Heart series, the Canadian West series, I believe is what it was called.
Yeah, I think so. We have I work at a nursing home, and we have a few of the books, and I think that's what they have on the covers is the Western. So
yeah, so the book series features around Elizabeth Thatcher and Wynn Delaney, who is a Mountie. So we both know, me and Morgan over here grinning like idiots because we both have just fallen in love with Mounties. I'm sorry, but we have.
Sorry, you could not go wrong with a man in Red Surge.
Nothing at all. But anyway,
I would love to go to Canada and actually see. Like, I know that they don't really necessarily do the Red Surge anymore, right? Like, they don't necessarily you don't necessarily just stay in the Red Surge all the time.
I don't think so. I think it is more of a like dress uniform thing, but I could be wrong. If we have any Canadian listeners, correct.
I think probably correct us in the comments if we're wrong, but I think that they probably keep it just for like specific places, like depending, like kind of like with the military. Some are kind of like in their actual base uniforms, where it's like them in the camouflage. And then like whenever they're in specific services, they wear the full actual dress uniform, like what they wear whenever they, are at a special award ceremony or whatever. They get like the white hat, white gloves, all that kind of stuff. They only tend to wear that for specific things. I think that's kind of how it is for the Mounties now, is they don't necessarily wear the Red Surge, especially if they're on duty and they're like, yeah. Because I've always kind of wondered that, like just a little bit of a side note, but like imagine you're like, for instance, Jack, there's been plenty of times where Jack's been like in the woods and he's like stalking down somebody trying to find them or whatever. And I'm like, dude, you literally have like red alert, like here I am.
Well, I think that was actually a reason that they had them, though, was so they would be easily recognizable.
Yeah.
So I think
it's kind of like the same thing down here. You wear hunter's orange so you don't get shot in the woods because somebody thinks you're a deer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. I see where it's kind of a safety thing, but I can also see where it's kind of like you're kind of giving yourself away, dude. You can't really hunt somebody down who can clearly see you for miles away.
Yeah. But now just a little pre-warning is not the word I'm looking for, but another word is not coming to my mind right now, that these stories are set in the early 1900s. So if you're not into period dramas, then you may or may not enjoy them. I mean, Morgan isn't, and she enjoys them. So at least give it a try.
Yeah, definitely give it a try because I'm a 90s to 2000s kid. Yeah. So period dramas and everything, like I've seen like Pride and Prejudice and Anna Karenina and like, different things like that. I've read those books because obviously history class, they tend to do that too. So, I mean, give it a try. If you don't like it, that's cool. You'll find very quickly if you don't find out very quickly why you don't like it. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be a big thing.
Right. I would say personally, and Morgan, you can let me know if you agree with me or not, but I would say that if I were going to recommend one or the other for you to watch, I would say go with the series.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the movie. Don't take me wrong. I like the movie, but if you were going to try just one or the other, I would say go with the series.
Well, the main reason why I would say to stick to the series is because obviously with the series, they kind of have more time to really dive deep into the characters and who they are, what makes them who they are. But also, like we were saying before, it's very much kind of like an indie movie. So it didn't have a very big budget. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit kind of sort of a cliffhanger at the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that. You let me know because I kind of looked at you whenever the movie ended. I'm like, that's how it ends. You were like, yep. I was like, no, that is not how you win the movie. But then you, of course, explained why. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So the movie itself actually jumps back and forth between the story of Elizabeth Thatcher and Elizabeth Thatcher. Not confusing at all, is it? Because it is an aunt and her niece. Maggie Grace plays Aunt Elizabeth, who is the original Elizabeth, along with Stephen Amell as Wynn Delaney. Now, this was before, and again, I highly recommend going and listening to Brian's interview because I'm actually going to be repeating some of what he said here. But obviously he goes into way more detail and a lot more backstory. So it is just incredible, the journey God has brought this on. But that this was before Maggie Grace and Stephen Amell's careers took off. So they got halfway through shooting this movie and the economy crashes and they lose their backing. A year or two later, I don't even remember the time frame that happens, they get another backer for the movie, which I believe was Hallmark, if I'm not mistaken. But
I think it was. I think it was.
Yeah. That they went to do this and they went to Maggie Grace and Stephen Amell and were like, hey, y'all want to finish this? And they're like, absolutely. And their agents are like, y'all are booked for the next 5 years. So, but the fact is that Maggie Grace and Stephen Amell both wanted to finish this movie, but they couldn't because they were already under contract for so long. And Brian Bird and Michael Landon Jr. had to come up with something. They had half a movie here. They had to come up with a way to finish this. And I honestly don't remember. I think it was Brian that the Lord gave him a dream of a journal. And so the story of the movie jumps back and forth between a young Elizabeth Thatcher who becomes the person that we know in the series. But that she is, fiercely independent. Well, actually, I wouldn't say she's so fiercely independent in the movie. She kind of slowly becomes that. I think Julie kind of nags her on to become that independent, but she's actually, Julie actually mentions that Elizabeth is afraid of her own shadow. So she's not so fiercely independent in the movie, but she ends up kind of in a mix up. I cannot think of the superintendent's name. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, Higgins. Yeah.
That they kind of end up in a little, he makes some inappropriate advances. So she turns down the opportunity that he offers her because it kind of came with some strings attached. And so kind of in revenge of that, he gives her this posting in Coal Valley, which is like somewhere way off on the other side of the map from her world, a little bit of an exaggeration. But so Elizabeth is kind of determined to prove Mr. Higgins and her family wrong at this point. Like, she's got a little bit of a stubborn streak. She might be scared of her own shadow, but she's got a bit of a stubborn streak. And her sister,
well, also she well, I mean, also she understands that with the fact that it is so far off the map and it is like in this rural area, she's like, what better way for me to be like, I have this desire to teach kids to, shape their minds, to, give them things that they obviously aren't so easily given.
Right.
Like all these other kids that I can, like all these other offers that I could have, where I'm in a preparatory school where these kids have well-off parents and, all these, they're more privileged than these kids that I'm being given right now. I'm like, she's like, these kids are going to have to work for everything that they have. No offense, but they're not as privileged as these kids that my parents went to go teach.
Mm-hmm.
So she also has that kind of inspiration too, because she's like, what better way to really be able to shape a child's mind than the ones that are really going to have to need it.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to the ones that are privileged, not saying that they don't need knowledge and they don't deserve knowledge, but she understands that there's going to be more teachers that are going to probably end up going to them faster than the ones in they're well off into the prairies and everything. So she also has that kind of understanding that, hey, if I'm not going to do it, who will?
Mm-hmm.
So,
So Elizabeth, when she determines to do this, her sister Julie is the adventurer of the family. And she is telling Elizabeth all these dangers and perils of the West and whatever. Well, Elizabeth sneaks into Julie's room to get one of her novels because Julie's, quote, knowledge comes from novels that she has been reading. So Elizabeth sneaks into Julie's room to get one of these novels and knocks some books off a shelf and discovers a book hidden behind all of this. And it is a journal by her Aunt Elizabeth that she has never met. Like, her family apparently didn't even really talk about her much because it was almost like a hidden thing. Obviously she had never seen this journal before.
Yes,
she didn't know it existed.
Yeah, it's almost as if like she was what's the word? I guess kind of in some sort she was kind of just like shunned by her family. It almost even gives that little bit of a thing, because like, why wouldn't you?
Well, I don't think it was so much that she was shunned, but like later in the movie, Elizabeth asks her father what happened to her, and her father said, I don't know. And he said that except for one visit after his sister Elizabeth's posting in Pine Valley ended, or
Coal Valley?
No, this was, I cannot for the life of me think of, I think Pine Valley.
Yeah, I think it is Pine Valley. Not Pine, wait, no.
Or is that, I think that might be from the musical, wherever her posting was that she was at, because that is escaping my brain at the moment.
We have so many different things that are like all surrounding When Calls Heart, because you got the series, we got the movie, and there's a musical that Kerri went to not too long ago that she even made. So we've got different When Calls Hearts coming out of our head right now.
Yeah.
But I guess I forgot that he did mention the fact that
he said that she left and never came back. So they don't know what happened to her, was the explanation of that. But that basically the journal had been hidden because the family felt the loss of their sister, their daughter, Elizabeth, or Aunt Elizabeth, I'll refer to her, that they didn't want to see that happen to their daughters. They didn't want to lose Elizabeth and Julie. So, I mean, it was like, especially Julie, with her being such an adventurer, they're like, Lord help us if this child ever gets her hands on this journal, you know? So they actually did that in a protecting way. It wasn't, it was, but wasn't a family secret. Like they just didn't want to.
They had their reasons, but at the same time, I mean, it's even quotes in the Bible, you know, secrets come out, you know, it all comes out. So,
so Elizabeth,
of course,
So Elizabeth, young Elizabeth, starts reading this journal of her Aunt Elizabeth's journey. So the movie, I'll be honest, the first time I saw this movie, I think actually might have been when it came out. We might have been living with Nana at that time or something, because we had just moved back from Missouri. I know we were living here with her, whatever the year was that I saw it. But I was honestly really confused because the story jumps back and forth between Aunt Elizabeth and current Elizabeth. So it was like, it felt choppy to me. I'm not going to lie. It felt very choppy. And I had a hard time following it. Now, this past time that I watched it, I think was the most it had ever flowed for me. But I also at that point had listened to Brian's interview. So I kind of knew the behind the scenes story of things. So I understood some things more. I understood why there were two separate storylines going on here instead of just one storyline.
I have to say,
go ahead.
That's why I love getting behind the scenes knowledge before watching a movie.
Knowledge is power.
Which is stuff that they exactly, because like I know, like even current movies, they've gotten more adamant about showing behind the scenes stuff or behind the scenes knowledge or information, like especially when actors go to have interviews and press tours to back their story, like back their movies and everything. You know, they can't necessarily give a lot of spoilers away, obviously, especially if it's a big, like, secretive kind of movie. I know Marvel's very big about keeping a lot of their movies a secret because they want you to be obviously like so into the movie, not seeing things coming. But they tend to draw stories and things that they can talk about from behind the scenes. Right. And, you know, just different things. Like they'll even talk about how this, like they'll even make kind of references to some of the actors or whatever, like, yeah, they kind of ad-lib this one scene. And whenever you see it, you know, you're going to like, it's going to be kind of really crazy. And you're going to be able to see it on my face that he's ad-libbing because I'm over here freaking out. Like, what am I going to do? Because I'm not good at ad-libbing or whatever. So I think that's what I really love about behind the scenes stuff. And knowing the fact that they lost their backing and they suddenly took on this approach of going back and forth, which I'm not gonna lie, I kind of wish that they would have did just a little bit of that with the series because of the fact that if it wasn't for current Elizabeth getting a hold of that journal from her Aunt Elizabeth, she probably wouldn't have went to Coal Valley. Right. Or Pine Valley or whatever it was in the movie. So I kind of missed that aspect of it because that was so big in the books too, right? I haven't really read all the books.
The books only focus on Elizabeth and Wynne. Now, the Return to the Canadian West series that Jeanette and her daughter, Laurel, I think is her name, have written, I think, more go along with the series, but I'll be honest and say I have not read those yet. Y'all, I have a pile of like 40 some odd books to be read. I'm way behind.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to get my hands on them along with the Love Softly and then the other series that you said that you hope that they do pick up. I love books. I just don't really have a whole lot of time to read them, but yeah, I wish that they would have.
That keeps me from reading a lot. So because I can't last very long to read, and it's kind of hard to enjoy it when you can't spend a lot of time in it.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I have to be like somewhere quiet and not have a lot of distractions because, you know, me having ADD, I'm like very quickly go from one thing to the other without finishing the first thing I was doing. So, but yeah, I really like that we actually got to see it, them going back and forth, and how Elizabeth drew inspiration from her Aunt Elizabeth, and that kind of gave her strength to be like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. You know, and drawing, obviously, she even drew things from her book about things that her Aunt Elizabeth found out from being out there, like things that she had learned from the people and everything, and then took it for her own knowledge that helped her in certain situations as she was making her journey out there. And of course, another thing that I wish they would have done was the fact that you know, Julie was not very happy when she found out that her sister had stolen her aunt's journal from her, but very quickly, and she wasn't very happy the fact that Elizabeth was even entertaining the possibility of going out west and taking this position. So to kind of it's so crazy how different these two Julies are, but the Julie Thatcher in the movie is very much different from the series. So if anyone's kind of having their mind as to thinking that they're the same, they're definitely not. The Julie in the movie is definitely more adventurous, definitely more mouthy. She definitely does not hold her tongue. I mean, which Julie in the series is kind of like that, but she kind of plays a little bit of a trick on her sister. Makes it think it's her idea.
Julie in the movie is more harsh.
Yeah, she's
harsh would be the word I would use there.
She's got a feistiness to her that so she thinks that what she's doing would hopefully cause her sister not to do it, because if my brother decided to go and leave me and our family and go out west or go way far away from us, I would have a problem with it too. But Julie obviously sees that her sister really wants to do this, so the only way to possibly change her mind is to show her what she doesn't really know, which is what it's like to actually live out there without daddy's money, without the comfort of having a staff, without the comfort of having, fresh sheets on the bed and warm food on the table every night and every morning and every evening and just at any time that you want it. So she challenges Elizabeth to go out and stay in this old rundown cottage, I think that they use for one of the staffers on their property. And of course, Elizabeth's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I'll show all of you that I'm capable of doing this. I'm going to do this. And I'm going to show all of you that I'm capable of doing this. And of course she does it. And she's actually doing pretty good when she first does it. I mean, and of course, Julie's like, okay, my plan is obviously backfiring on me and I do not like this. So I'm going to add a little bit of surprise to, and so she kind of plays mean tricks on her sister and all this kind of stuff. I guess we haven't really talked about Daniel's character.
Yeah, that's what I was, that is a little interesting there that we have two Daniels in the movie and in the series, but they play two completely different characters.
Absolutely.
In the movie, obviously in the series, we just fell in love with Daniel Lissing as Jack Thornton. Who does not love Jack? I mean, seriously, we adore him. He's hilarious. I went back and was watching, so this is gonna be quick, I promise, but I went back and was watching like some fan edits the other day, and I was cracking up just at how cocky Jack is. Like, he is arrogant son of a gun. Like, he is hilarious.
especially in the first season, like it's honestly like even I myself forgot just how cocky and sharpshooter he was.
Yeah.
And still was even throughout the series. He obviously calmed down a little bit because of Elizabeth.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of softened up a little bit around Elizabeth, but I love that he didn't hold back. He was definitely a sharpshooter.
Yeah.
Cocky.
It was funny too, because like I didn't realize, I can't say I ever really noticed this until I went back the other day and was watching this. He had a little bit of a ladies' man personality to him, and I never caught on to that.
I know.
Like it was just kind of blew my mind.
I know. Okay. I really want to go. I really can't wait until we do. We are planning on doing. That's why we're talking about the pilot movie, but we are having this really exciting. Like we're really excited. Like if you're listening to us on Anchor and Spotify, you can't see our faces right now, but we have like the hugest grins when we talk about the series, and we talk about any of the characters, such as Jack and Daniel Lissing. So we're really excited to be able to go back and start from the very first season. That's why we're starting with the pilot movie, because it's what was the biggest, obviously big inspiration for the series to be made. But yeah, it's you can obviously remember more closer series, like remembering him how he was in season 5, but when you go to season 1, you're like, whoa. He was a ladies' man, he was cocky. As soon as he saw Elizabeth with Billy Hamilton, it was game over. It was like, not gonna happen. You're not about to come into my town and go after my woman, even though she's not my woman, and even though I kind of slightly hate her. So
this is gonna be so good. I cannot wait.
It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be so good. But the Daniel who plays the Mountie, another Mountie,
Daniel Sharman in the pilot movie plays a Mountie called Edward Montclair, I think was his last name, if I'm not mistaken.
Edward, but I think they called him Eddie. No, I think it was Edward.
It was Edward.
Did they
they never called him. No, they never called him Eddie. But the thing,
so I will say this:
him and Elizabeth didn't get along.
No, they did not. Mm-mm. And it kind of, did they grow up together?
Yes.
Okay, and he was kind of considered like a little lanky bad boy.
She was like, please, you're talking about Edward, a perpetual idler, if ever there was one. Like she's like, she has a terrible opinion of him. So he has to like prove himself in her eyes that he has changed. But he kind of goes back to a little bit of boyishness when he allows Julie to talk him into releasing mice into the cottage that Elizabeth is staying in.
I told y'all she played some dirty tricks on Elizabeth. Okay, she was not about to let her sister leave.
Mm-hmm. I did think it was super sweet I did think it was super sweet that Edward went and told her father about it. Like that showed some responsibility, that he went, okay, I did something stupid and you need to know about it. Like
it kind of shows you that the Matthews did change him to be better. So I love that he kind of still had a boyishness to him, even after just coming back from basic training of becoming a Mountie, and getting his red surge and everything like that. And I love that Julie was able to just kind of rope him into this. He was just kind of like, okay, you could have done this yourself. Like, why did you need me? But
I thought she was going to handle.
Of course, he actually got. Well, I mean, honestly, like and the fact that he was just like, he actually got worried about Elizabeth, because he was like, how is she going to react to this? Like, is she going to hurt herself trying to get away from him? Like, you can kind of see that he was even at that point worried about the outcome.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like he was also sort of wanting to see her go and do this, kind of was a little bit kind of rooting for her in a way, without necessarily saying it.
He knew it would be good for her. He knew what a life-changing experience that becoming a Mountie had been for him. And it's very obvious that he cares for her. Like in the movie, it's so obvious that he cares for her. And I love the banter between the two of them. Like when he knocks on her stateroom door on the train, And she's like, feel free to get off the train. And he's like, it's moving rather quickly at this point. Like, not such a good idea.
I don't know why, but I feel like Daniel Listen, who plays Jack Thornton, I feel like he would have said something sort of like that, but I feel like at the same time he would have been a little bit more cockier with it.
Yeah.
He would have been like, yeah, sure, I'll do that right now. Just as we're moving very fastly across the tracks, I will definitely just jump right off. No problem. Like, I feel like he would have said something in that way.
Yeah.
As in, like, yeah, sure, that's a great idea. Thanks, Elizabeth. I'll surely take that advice.
Yeah. I think, honestly, if I were to pick between, and you can give me your pick as well, but I think if I were going to pick between the two storylines going on in this movie between Aunt Elizabeth and Wynn and young Elizabeth and Edward, I would have to choose Aunt Elizabeth and Wynn. I love Wynn Delaney. He is so much fun. I love the embarrassing moments that Elizabeth gets herself into.
Woo!
Like, I mean, so
there's some doozies.
Yeah, if you've watched the pilot movie and you haven't watched the series, when you start into the series, honestly, it took me a few minutes when I first started the series to get into it, because they kind of pick back up like before, like when Elizabeth is coming into town, and like some of the stuff that happens to her is stuff that happened to Aunt Elizabeth. You didn't see it happen to young Elizabeth in the pilot movie, so it felt a little forced to me right when I first watched it. Now, when I go back and rewatch it, I probably will not feel that way about it. But like the not knowing how to light a stove and pouring water on the fire because it's smoking, it ended up with ash all over her face. And of course, in the movie, this happens to Aunt Elizabeth, and like Wynn is starting to tell her, no, don't do that. And about that time, she dumps the water on the fire and like gets ash all over her. And he's like, it'll cause the ash to combust. Like, just finishes his sentence. Then goes over there and was like, when you're going to start the fire, you need to make sure this is turned this way. That way the air can flow, the smoke can escape. And then, you know, when you're ready to put it out, you can just turn it this way. But I mean, he's being so stinking sweet. Like, he is not laughing. He is actually like,
he's trying hard not to. He's trying hard not to, like he's definitely holding something back, but obviously he understands like nothing, like me laughing is only going to make her feel worse, because she obviously feels really embarrassed right now, as she probably should. Yeah. But he's like also understanding like she's never done anything like this. He can clearly tell that she's never ever dealt with any of this. So he's like trying to kind of help her, but in a way where it's not offending her and automatically making her feel any worse for not already knowing the information. And yeah,
I feel really so sorry for Wynn. I really do, because bless his heart, he is like automatically attracted to Elizabeth. She is beautiful. She is, you kind of like, cut out this new girl in town, whatever. So he's, oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
And I feel so sorry for him, because he is like obviously enamored with Elizabeth from the time he sees her. Obviously, he's a good-looking guy. I mean, it's Stephen Amell. Come on, he's a good-looking guy. And
I mean, okay, so I will say this. I feel like we do need to kind of like, just so anybody does not know those names. Stephen Amell is mostly famous for playing Green Arrow, I think, on the CW series Arrow. It's a comic book adaptation of this character from the DC comics. I'm trying to think of other things that he's been in. He's been on a lot of stuff. But that's probably his most famous work, because that's what he's done the longest. And then Daniel Sharman. Okay, he's most famous for being like on Teen Wolf, the originals, things like that. for anyone who knows those names, you'll probably automatically know who I'm talking about. Um, and then I'm not sure about Maggie Grace. I probably have seen other things that she has done,
I'm
but
not
not
sure
known it.
either. All I know,
I
I
can't
think
really.
Poppy Drayton did another movie for Hallmark. I just don't like. It's been within the last couple of years. I just don't remember what the movie was. That's bad.
Right. But
But
I know, but I just know whenever I've listened to people talk about and they drop names of actors, I don't automatically recognize it. But
mhm,
whenever they then explain like what they've been in, I'm like, oh, okay. So I just want to
yeah,
make sure that, for anyone that's listening or watching us on YouTube right now, like that's who those people are.
yes,
So I think just from they're both very charming, very sweet, very great actors. I've watched
mhm,
like their interviews. I've watched other things that they've been in, and they're very. You can tell that they're very sweet, down to earth guys. So they definitely were perfect for these roles, in my opinion.
yeah. But
And they
the
great choices.
the thing about it is, Elizabeth is attracted to Win as well,
Mm-hmm.
and then one day he comes to school to pick up this little boy. And he's like, "You ready to go, son?" And she's like, Delaney, of course, like Delaney, of course, like trying to,
Yeah,
like, it suddenly dawns on her, this is his kid, like this is a married
like
man.
I've been crushing and
And he's
like
mentioning
thinking of
Philip's
a
mother.
thinking romantic, like she's thinking like I'm having these romantic feelings for a married man. Oh my god, like
And he's
that, like
making
back in those
advances
days,
towards her.
like he even made, he, like, obviously you don't just automatically start like, yes, you can find a man attractive and then keep going on
Mhm.
with your life, but whenever that person is making advances towards you, talking to you, going out of his way to kind of help you adjust to this new life, like of course you're going to start having like romantic feelings for them
Mhm.
and feel like they're flirting with you.
Right.
And
Because he was.
yeah, he was. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. um and then the bombshell of him coming up, which I mean, back in those days, it's not very common for a guy to say like, "Come on, son," to his
Mhm.
nephew or whatever. I done it to my nephew. I've said like, come on, Bubba," or "Come on, son," or whatever, you
Mhm.
know. Uh,
Oh,
but he's
listen,
not mine.
an
So
18-year-old kid that I worked with at Wendy's a couple of years ago. I called him son all the time. Like, he's 6 years younger than me, and I would call him son. I mean, I was the mama of the group. Okay, I'm the
yeah,
mama wherever I go. So,
yeah,
but so she thinks Win Delaney is married, and just so many things that keep happening. She keeps trying to avoid him. It's not working. He keeps making advances. She keeps falling for him, and she's like, "This can't happen," whatever. So she finally goes and confronts his wife.
wait, whoa, you missed the
Okay.
part.
Go for
Remember, he buys her basket.
it. Mm-hmm.
He buys her basket, and so that automatically is like this. That's actually something that happens in Gilmore Girls, where the woman makes a basket, and then the men will bid on the basket, and whoever's basket they bid on, you go on a picnic together. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the rules.
So it's a date.
So it's automatically kind of considered a date.
Yes.
Most people even will do this with obviously their wives, husbands and wives obviously are mainly the ones that come in and do this, but they were kind of doing it as a fundraiser for the school, right?
There was the little boy Andy that
Oh
was
yes,
sick, and they were trying to raise money for his medical needs. So
right. They were
they
going to try
did,
and send him. They
yeah,
were
they
trying
did
to
like a
pay
little penny
expenses.
circus and
Yeah,
the little auction of the boxes and whatever. And I don't remember what the amount of money was that Win paid for this basket, but like on a
I think it was
Mountie
like,
salary,
yeah.
it was a
I
big
think it was
deal.
like,
But she doesn't. At this point, she doesn't know he's a Mountie.
yeah. She doesn't even know that he's a Mountie, which I mean, I don't think he even once don't like puts on the red search even in the movie.
Mm-mm.
Um, But so
there
he
is like a
pays for her back.
deleted scene with him in his surge, and there are a couple of deleted scenes that I have seen like on YouTube or somewhere. I don't remember that. I'm like, I wish to goodness they would have put this in the movie because it is so good. But anyway.
Oh yeah, I would definitely go back and watch those because I would love to see how he looks in the surge. I'm sure he looks good because I feel like everybody just automatically looks good in the red surge. I mean, so
red surge is the country equivalent of a tuxedo. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the tuxedo. Like, I don't know if anybody's ever heard of it, but like there is like such a thing as a tuxedo effect where you can dress any man up in a tux and they will automatically look like 10 times hotter. But when you take that tux away, it's like the effect just ruins it. So I feel like,
sorry guys.
sorry. But it is true. But then again, I'm also kind of a girl that likes to see a guy like just wear plain dirty blue jeans, like a plain t-shirt, boots, and just like, So I mean, yeah. All depends on how your taste is.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like the Mountie Red Surge does kind of have that effect. But then again, like I loved probably seeing Daniel Lissing and of course our incredible Kevin McGarry, who plays the current Mountie on the When Calls the Heart series. I actually love seeing them outside of their Red Surge too, probably even more than I do actually seeing them in their Red Surge. But anyways, so he bids on her basket, and of course she's like standing there and she's watching him constantly trying to outbid this other man who is, I have to say, he was fishing out of his league. Not being rude to the actor at all, and I think that's what they wanted anyways, was to him being,
he was the Undertaker. It was
he was the Undertaker.
So
yeah, so that right there is automatically a kind of a sorry to anybody that is that. Like somebody has to do
your services are very appreciated.
Yeah, you're very appreciated, and like somebody has to do it, but it's not necessarily something that women are attracted to.
There's something about a man in uniform. Sorry.
Even though she has yet to see him in uniform, I feel like, yeah. But like he's in this constant like bidding battle with this other man who was the Undertaker of the town and had a sweet little girl who obviously really wanted this woman to be with her daddy. But it obviously I think it was like $200.
And like no, that was no, not for that one. I don't remember what
I'm not sure how much it was, but he bid a good bit. Like everybody's eyes were like constantly going back for these two, but like back and forth between these two men, and like Elizabeth's right there, like literally having like a panic attack, like, oh my God, stop! You are married. Why are you bidding on my basket?
Yeah,
like having practically an anxiety attack right there in front of everybody.
Well, I mean, when he wins the basket, she literally drops the teacup that she's holding and it shatters on the floor, like, because she's like just in shock that this just happened.
Yeah.
So she goes like to talk to his wife, and she's like, "I'm surprised Wynn bid on this basket with you. Like, this is not helping his case any."
No. Yeah.
And so Elizabeth confronts her, and it's like, your husband is making advances towards me. I think she ends up saying, your husband is a womanizing swine, is what she ends up saying. And Lydia Delaney is like, the fact that you can stand here and make these accusations while my husband lies in a hospital bed. And she's like, wait, what?
And then right on cue, Winnie comes out and he's like, hey, you're here early. I was going to plan on picking you up for the lunch date. And she's like, I gotta go. It's just like, it's so funny. And like, of course,
she's like, you're not Philip's father. And he's like, uncle. But you can see this look of realization on his face because she's been avoiding him and he knows it. So you can see this look of realization on his face and like this amusement of, okay, now I get it. You thought I was married with a kid. Thanks. You know, like.
Well, I mean, in his defense, like obviously because of her husband not being there, like if her husband was there and she was automatically seeing obviously her being affectionate with her husband and not being there, like, and not and like obviously the father would be picking up Philip or whatever. Like all of these kind of things weren't helping his case, but it wasn't at the same time his fault.
Right.
But yeah, that was so good. I
Oh
loved
yeah.
that because I feel like that was such a good way to being able to, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
allow you to understand their lives and
Mhm.
how it was and why he was there and all that kind of stuff.
If you
But it was
read the
there.
books, if you read the book, like the first book, um, they actually did a really good job of staying pretty true to the storyline of the original books, which I'm always impressed with when people do that, because it seems
Yeah.
like the Love Comes Softly books, the Love Comes Softly movie started out really close to the books. By the time they got to like the fourth or fifth movie, they're doing their own thing. Like they're not even anything like the books by
Yeah.
the time they get to the end of the series. But I love that they stuck pretty close to that with that part. In skipping to the young Elizabeth part, um, that she sets out on her journey, finds out that her father sent Edward to escort her, which she is not very happy about. Just as in the series, Elizabeth isn't happy when she finds out Jack was assigned to Hope Valley to look
But
out
here's
for
the thing, Jack was equally, if not more, angry at the fact that he
her.
was
More
sent.
so.
I feel like he was definitely a lot more angry than Elizabeth as to that the
Yeah.
fact that he had to come and babysit father's little princess.
Well, I think it made it worse because he had already kind of been flirting with her. And then to realize who she was, it like really made him angry.
Yeah.
But
the fact that Edward wasn't really upset that he got assigned this. I feel like he was actually kind of happy because like he wanted to like see her actually make this journey and get there and be able to say that he was actually able to witness this amazing part of her life and her journey and her story, to be a little bit of a part of it. So yeah. And the fact, I love the scene where she's like trying to save her luggage, which I think happened in the series, right? And
no, that part didn't happen in the series.
Okay,
that is a parallel to the series, though, that the stagecoach got
robbed
up.
Yeah,
but in the books, or sorry, in the movie, Edward is with her, and he like basically tells her, come on, and she of course is mad that she's like, you're a Mountie, we just got held up, dude, this does not look very good. And he was like, okay, you're a teacher, Elizabeth, so you can count. There were 3 of them and 1 of me, and more to the point, there was 1 of you. What would have happened if I would have taken them on and lost? Where would you be then? Kind of, okay, I had to make a decision here. I made the call that I felt like was best to make. She's like, okay, granted. So he's like, come on, you have feet, let's go. And so she's like, okay, you grab that trunk, I'll grab this trunk. And he was like, we're leaving them here. Like, there is no way we're dragging these trunks. Well, she refused to leave without her trunks. So she just grabs one of her trunks and starts pulling. And of course, he's just standing there like, you're an idiot, and shaking his head.
like kind of like, okay, let's see how far you get with that thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, this is gonna be fun to watch, see how far you're gonna actually do this. Well, mind you, she's wearing like heels. I mean, they're not very tall heels, because obviously back in those days, if you had extremely tall heels, you were kind of considered a harlot. No offense. So
they
you
were
kind
boots, but they had a little bit of heel to them.
Yeah, but back then, if you were like wearing kind of like stilettos type heels, like you were kind of considered more, just not considered very appropriate,
right,
or whatever. So either way, she still had a good heel on her boots. Walking through like very obviously, like I could see like it was rugged kind of it was like rugged, damp, sandy like type mud. So like I could see that very clearly not being able to. I was honestly waiting for one of those heels to snap, but it didn't happen. But I was kind of waiting for one of those heels to snap.
Yeah.
So yeah,
she finally kind of breaks down and is like, I can't go any further. And he was like, leave the trunk. She's like, no, it's my feet, they're killing me. So he is such a sweet gentleman and like gets down, like she's sitting on her trunk, and he's like, may I? So she nods her head. So he takes her boot off, and her foot is bleeding like from walking. And he's like, okay, I'll carry you, but I can't do that and bring the trunk. So she finally agrees to leave her trunk behind. So he carries her for a while, and it just kind of shows their journey of them getting to Coal Valley. And when they get to Coal Valley, it is even more drab. Like it is practically gray. Like it looks like a black and white screen practically. I mean, it's like gray and drab and muddy.
And oh my gosh, was it muddy? Like there was no, like, it looks like, for anyone that's like imagining Coal Valley, whenever Elizabeth gets to Coal Valley, that is a sweet, sunshiny place compared to this. I mean, you would think, I mean, it was pretty muddy in the series, but it was, this is like swamp mud. Like it was up to her ankles. Like she was up into her ankles in mud when she was actually started walking down that street. And like it was almost like a ghost town. Like nobody was walking up and down the sidewalks, like on the road, on the sides, where nobody was like just sitting outside of the buildings. Like no one was there. There was no horses, there was no carriages anywhere, there was nothing. It was just like the buildings and then this long stretch of just mud. And I was like, whoa. That's like, if I would have walked up onto that, I would have been like, okay,
can you take me home?
Like, can we turn this thing around? I was not made for this at all. This is nothing like that little small cottage outside of my house.
Right. So they go in the saloon where Abigail Stanton and two other mothers are teaching the kids. Now this is the same in that the school is in the saloon. And the conversation between Elizabeth and these ladies is very similar to what it is in the series, very similar. And the ladies explain the mining accident that has just happened and basically just ask her, I think the woman said, to put it bluntly, are you woman enough, Miss Thatcher? And Elizabeth just kind of stands there for a second, like she's trying to decide, okay, can I do this? Can I not do this? And she doesn't actually answer them. She just walks in front of the children and gets their attention and introduces herself as their new teacher. And meanwhile, Edward is standing in the background, like just smiling, proud of her for everything she has gone through. And this whole trip, she's been reading her aunt's journal. And
that's where the back and forth kind of happens. Is like, as she's reading the journal, you're seeing what she's reading being actually played out. Right. So that's what I really love, is that you're like, as she's reading, you're reading Aunt Elizabeth's words as to what's going on, but getting to actually see both sides of the story and like what it was really like present day when it was happening.
So Edward hears a noise outside, and he looks out the window and sees these guys that held up their stagecoach riding down the street. So he's like, Miss Thatcher, can I see you for just a moment? So she walks over there to him, and I think he like hands her the journal and maybe one other thing that he had on him of hers. And he was like, they're here, they're in town, I'm going after them. And she was like, no, what if something happens to you? And he's like, I'm a Mountie, this is my job, like
basically bringing up the fact that what he said to her, like, there's three and there's one of you, like you told me when all of this happened. It's not good odds.
And then when she said that, she's like, there's three of, what if, and he was like, I like those odds, but I mean, he had such a cute personality to him. I love Edward. But then he like
didn't the reason why he went after them was because they stole, like, was it the compass?
Her compass and her money.
Yeah. But I think she was more sentimental about the compass.
Because it was something her dad gave her.
Yeah, and I think that's what he
found her way home.
Yeah, and that's the reason why he wanted to go after him, because if anything, he just wanted to at least get that compass for her, which I think was really sweet.
Oh yeah. But he tells her, he was like, by the way, I read ahead, like in the journal, and he was like, some Mounties do settle down or something. He kind of grins at her. And
yes, because of course they talk about just what Jack and them talk about in the series, if the Mounties never wanted you to have a wife. Mounties never marry, but of course in the series they say if the Mounties wanted you to have a wife, they would issue one.
Yeah.
which I love. I think that also kind of makes so much sense at the same time.
Yeah.
But I love that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But he ends up riding off after these guys, and Elizabeth is like, "Excuse me just a minute," and like runs down the street hollering at him, and of course he doesn't stop. But she's like, "I just wanted to say, like, be safe or come back safe or something." I don't remember exactly what she says, but and then the movie ends with her standing there in the middle of the street. And I don't really want to get into the series any more than we already have, because we've already been going about an hour. And of course, we're going to start into the series probably after the beginning of the year. I don't see us getting to the beginning of this. I don't see us getting to the series before then. But that, how many times have we seen our Elizabeth that we're used to from the series running down the center of the street like that? So it's actually like I had completely forgotten that parallel until we watched it again.
Yeah.
But so that's just kind of a rundown of this movie. Again, I would highly recommend going and listening to Brian's interview with Cammie and Casey. And like I say, I'll try to find that episode and link it in the show notes. But it is just an incredible story, and to me gives you more of an appreciation for the movie, knowing the backstory to it.
Personally, I would suggest watching it, like listening to Brian's interview before watching the movie. But if you've already watched the movie, then of course, listen to the interview and then maybe go back and watch it again, or watch the movie again and then go watch Brian Bird's interview. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just saying a suggestion. So
how fast she started rattling there.
Oh, guys, I talk fast in real life. I'm surprised I don't talk a lot more fast, like more fast paced than on here as I do in real life. Because
yeah.
I love how I just said real life.
Yeah. This is not real life. This is fantasy world.
Fantasy land. Not real at all.
Our real lives just impacted.
Yeah.
Yeah, for real. Seriously, y'all, just please keep both of us and our families in your prayers. Like on my end, there has been so many people getting sick and whatever. Like I haven't been to church in 3 weeks because this is just kind of, it's like been one thing after another. And thankfully we're fine, like nobody is in trouble or whatever, but it has still been a lot of strain on my family, and of course has impacted my ability to be here or to even just go to church or whatever. So just please be praying for both of us, and just that, we have said from the start, the devil has been trying to shut this podcast down literally from the time we started it. So we truly believe God has some big plans for this podcast. We hope that if nothing else, I believe we do share our faith on this podcast. I think that is very clear, but I hope if nothing else, that you feel us as kindred spirits, and that there is someone out there that shares the same standards and beliefs and whatever that you do, because I know what it's like to feel very alone in that. And I know Morgan does as well. It's like, it's hard to find people that you can relate to. So I hope if nothing else with this podcast, that we bring a smile to your face, that we make you laugh, that we make you roll your eyes and just enjoy the friendship that God has given us between Morgan and I, and that we want y'all to feel a part of our family, a part of our friend group as well. So we're just really, really grateful to be here. Our next episode, I believe, is going to be Gilmore Girls again, the second episode. Morgan's excited for that. So we'll be back for that. And then, Lord willing, everybody cross your fingers, your toes, anything you can cross it. That right before Christmas, we have some really special plans coming up. We had hoped to be covering Christmas movies all this month. Well, obviously that has not happened, but I am determined we're going to cover at least one Christmas movie before this Christmas season is over.
I mean, hey, we could always cover Christmas movies in July.
Hey, I like
Christmas
it.
in July.
I like it. But
that's another thing to cross your fingers for.
Yeah. And then, of course, here in a week, 2 weeks, that we'll be covering the When Hope Calls premiere. That is going to be so insane. I kid you not,
guys. I don't know what it is, but like I just love this series so much. I love the characters, and I love the fact that we're finally getting Lori back, and we're finally getting Daniel back. I don't care if it's just for this and that's it. Just getting this small little dose of these two characters, and along with Cody, is all I need for Christmas. Yeah. That is probably the best. Like, it really is what it's being called, which is a Hardy's Christmas present. It really is, because like true Hardys know that Lori and Daniel are, and Carter, who plays Cody, are very special people to the Hardy's community. So being able to get them back and it be during Christmas time, I mean, it's so amazing. So we will hopefully be at least covering that, if not any other Christmas movies. I would love to cover Daniel's that just came out last night. So good. Story, yeah. It was so good. I love Daniel in it. I love Daniel in anything. I'm so glad to be able to see him in a feel good Hallmark styled good Christmas movie again. So yeah. But yes, we will be covering Gilmore Girls next, episode 2 of season 1. So if you have not watched this Gilmore Girls, it is on Netflix. If you haven't watched, if you want to know where to find the When Calls the Heart pilot movie, I think it is on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have a subscription to that, it should be on that. Or if you want to have the DVD, I'm sure you can find it on Amazon. If you have like a local place that kind of does DVDs or tends to carry a lot of DVDs, you might find it there. I know those are pretty ancient now. Everybody pretty much does everything online. So I'm sure you can find it some way, somehow. I'm telling you, it's a good investment just to kind of have a cute, sweet little movie to have to just play whenever you feel down, or if it's a rainy day and you just want something to feel good, pop it in. And like Kerri said, we love you guys. We're so glad to have you guys part of our little family. And like she said, I hope that we are kindred spirits that you guys can hold on to and relate to, and just know that we love you all. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys again soon.
Yeah, I will throw this one last thought in there and then we'll close. But we did actually just cover a Christmas movie with the Swing My Heart podcast with Nicole and Hannah. That was so much fun. What did we stay on that call? Like 5 hours?
Yeah, we did. In fact, the recording itself was like over 3 hours. And
Nicole did an incredible job editing it down to 2 hours, 6 minutes, and 2 seconds. I have the video pulled up right now. Nicole,
bravo.
Yeah, like I don't know how you did that, but you did an incredible job.
Because
before we started recording this, but you did an incredible job. We had so much fun.
It was man, I loved it.
We are planning to have them on soon as well, and hopefully we'll get to come back on their podcast. Hopefully we didn't scare them off too bad.
Oh, guys, before we end,
our little mascot.
Yep. It's Ambrose's birthday.
Happy birthday. For those on Anchor and Spotify, Ambrose we have dubbed him our little mascot, but it is Morgan's cat. One of her cats. He's a little orange striped cat. And I don't know if it was on purpose or not, but I just love the fact that his name is Ambrose because it goes along with the 9 Lives of Christmas and the little striped cat Ambrose on there as well. So
it was not planned. My mom named him. She's always wanted an orange cat, and she's always wanted to have a boy so she can name him Ambrose. Why? I have no clue. I don't think it has anything to do with the movie. But I remember
it's still cool though.
I remember when Kerri first saw that I had Ambrose, and the fact that I named him Ambrose, she went crazy. She's like, "Oh my God, it's like the 9 Lives of Christmas," and I'm like, "Oh, I totally forgot about that movie."
Nine Lives of Christmas is like my top favorite Hallmark.
It
Christmas
is such
movie.
a good movie.
If I could only pick one Hallmark Christmas movie, it would be Nine Lives of Christmas. I love it.
It's such a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a year old. Finally, no longer considered, I guess, a kitten anymore. So he definitely does not look like a kitten. He's huge. Everybody. I would tell people now. I can't tell anybody that he's not even a year old because he's a year old now. But I used to tell people all the time, like, he's not even a year old yet. And they look at me like, oh my God, he should be like 4 years old. What's going on? So,
and his personality is as big as he is. As is his meow. That is seriously the loudest cat, y'all.
I'm sure y'all could hear him. He did like a little tiny meow when I picked him up. You probably heard it. But yeah, his birthday, and then my dog Jax, who also tends to be in the camera. In fact, he's like asleep on my bed. I don't know if y'all can see that brown little lump right there.
Yeah.
But that's him, and he's going to be 7 on Christmas Day. So yeah, we got our little Christmas bunch.
That is awesome. And Morgan will actually be turning 25. Just 2 days.
Getting old. You're getting old, guys.
I'm older than you are. Shut up. You can't be old because I'm older than you are, okay? All right, guys.
I honestly forgot. I'm so used to being older than all my friends. I'm not gonna lie. So
I don't act older than you. That's the problem. All right, guys. We're gonna get off of here before this gets like way too random. But we love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time. Bye,
bye guys.